Hello, everyone, and welcome to Demos for Democracy, GovLab's ongoing series of live, interactive, online demos featuring designers and builders of the latest innovative governance platforms, tools, or methods to foster greater openness and collaboration to how we govern. Right now, we're very excited because we have with us Pia Mancini, co-creator of DemocracyOS, and she will be explaining us, well, what DemocracyOS is, the process of its design. She will share with us the vision they have on their tool, and most important, how can it be used to create social good. So thank you, Pia, for accepting our invitation. Welcome, and please let's start with what made you want to build the platform, why DemocracyOS, and what is DemocracyOS.
All right, cool. So thank you for having me, and hi everyone out there. DemocracyOS is an open source free web application, and it's designed basically to allow citizens to get informed, debate, and vote how they want their representatives to vote. So where we're coming from is we have the feeling that our political system is sort of out of sync with the times of society. So while we live in a society where we are constantly more and more able to interact with one another and express ourselves, our demands, our desires, our concerns on a regular basis, we are only able to interact with our political system once every couple of years. And the input that we can give, we're allowed to give the system, it's just simply casting one vote, just saying we agree or we disagree with what you've done for the past 3 or 4 years. And that's very poor. And we believe that the consequence of that is that, and we're seeing it everywhere in the world, we're seeing a lot of protests on the street, we're seeing a lot of mobilizations, we're seeing a lot of disenchantment with our system. And it's related, we believe it's related to that. It's related to our very, very poor vehicles or channels through which to have meaningful conversation with our representatives. So we started thinking about how we could sort of tackle that problem, and DemocracyOS is the result of that. It's the result of a group of people that feel that our system really provides us very, very poor options for us to interact with it.
And when did this process start? How long ago did you start to build DemocracyOS, and how long it took you to have like the first prototype?
So DemocracyOS started over 2 years ago.
Okay.
We started working in Buenos Aires. We started, a couple of friends, developers, started working, started building the tool. And it really didn't take much long because we developed with this sort of vision that we need to release very often and we need to try things, and it's very, very lean. So as soon as we could, even if it was really, very, very sketchy and very, not even beta, very, very alpha, we still, put it out there and started playing with it. So we are coming up now to finishing our first full version. We have a long, long roadmap ahead, but we're extremely happy with what we have achieved so far.
And did something happen, or did something spark these initial conversations, or how did the group got together and said, no, this is enough, we need to build something?
There were a couple of people in the group that were the initial sort of multipliers, mainly Santiago Siri, Esteban Brenman, Flor Polimeni, Agustín Tricera, Gonzalo Arguello. They were all sort of, a group of friends who, coming from different different backgrounds, we started sort of having all these conversations. A couple of us knew each other from before, and this was like a sort of very logical next step for us in our sort of, relationship. And so, yeah, that's sort of pretty much how it started.
Oh, okay. And could you give us a brief walkthrough to to the tool and tell us more about the process of design once you build like the first prototype and what has happened or what features, what has been the research process?
It was a very obviously challenging, but also very interesting process, because half of the team, they were engineers and web developers and tech entrepreneurs. They were coming from that background. And the other half, we were social scientists, political scientists, and we were coming from a totally different background. We never wrote a line of code in our lives until then. And so I think that combination proved to be very fruitful, because sometimes web developers or software developers, they have this very correct idea that less is more. But sometimes when it comes to politics or social sciences, sometimes you just need to have that extra sort of feature. Or one very clear example I remember was with voting. At first, the dev team wanted to have just one, button that was like vote. That's it. You can vote or you can not vote. And political, the other wing of the team, we were arguing that you actually need to be able to vote against something. So we needed two buttons, not just a voting situation, but one where you could actually say, I'm not against it. Because it's obviously different when you take no action than when you take action against something. So that sort of conversation and that sort of discussion came up a lot during the process. There was always this balance between, trying to build a very lean and very sort of very minimal kind of software, but at the same time, we wanted to be able, we knew we were building a political tool, a tool for social and political change, and that implies that you need to take other things into consideration.
And at those initial moments, were there comparable platforms that were trying to achieve the same, or that maybe from which you took inspiration and now they're working together, or how has?
Yeah, sure. Well, there weren't many back then. It's something that actually it's been growing, fortunately, for the past sort of 18 months or something. But when we started over 2 years ago, there weren't really many options around. We did look a lot at Liquid Feedback, the Pirate Party's software, that they are obviously the pioneers in this sort of type of development. But we decided to build our own, to be honest. But yeah, we know them and we still collaborate, and we are building our community. And of course, we have a large community of people that collaborate with us, that they come from different sort of projects and backgrounds. But we are not officially collaborating with any other sort of software like this. Yes, we are thinking about collaborating, and we're trying to build something together with Lumia. Lumia, like the New Zealand project that you obviously are very aware of. Yeah. And we think that Lumia and DemocracyOS together can provide an across-the-board sort of decision-making tool that will be very powerful. So we're working on that.
So if you had to define DemocracyOS, the main feature is that it is a decision-making tool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a decision for debating and voting.
Okay.
It's a very easy, simple way of debating and voting and making decisions collaboratively. That's what it is, and that's all it is. It's debating and voting to make decisions.
And can you give us a walkthrough to?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just gonna let me just. Okay, so there you go. So let me. You're not seeing my screen yet, no.
In the meantime, while you open it, are you gonna share the screen with us?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So just to recap, so your main mission is to open spaces for citizens to actively engage in the decision-making process, and the tool was built to fulfill or to answer that big question of how to adapt democracy to the internet era. And now you're going to show us how you are doing it right now.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So basically, this is DemocracyOS. This is the application that the Net Party is using in Argentina. Let me just very briefly tell you a little bit about the Net Party. When we started building DemocracyOS and we started sort of thinking about how we can upgrade our political system using the tools that we use every day, we also became very aware that we needed to find a way of connecting this to the political system. Mm-hmm. That technology by itself was not going to do the trick. That what we actually wanted was a connector that could harness all this collective intelligence and use it to make better decisions, to have real impact on the political system. And that's why we built the Net Party, our political party in the city of Buenos Aires that has the mission of always voting in Congress according to what citizens decide on DemocracyOS. So this is the instance that the Net Party uses in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So what you see on the left-hand side here, it's every new project that gets introduced in Congress. So for example, just random one, this one, it's about the selling of marijuana seeds in the city of Buenos Aires. So what we do is, one of the faults that we find in the political system is that it's a system that speaks for lawyers by lawyers, right? It's a system that it's very cryptic and it's very difficult to understand. And we think that that's on purpose. Obviously, they want to try to maintain the political corporation in power and try to keep it at a minimum. So what we do is we translate into simple Spanish, in this case simple Spanish, the laws, the bills that are introduced in the city. So basically what we say is, this is what the law is trying to do, and those who are in favor say this, those who are against say something else, and this is, for example, extra information about, here it's about, I don't know, verifications code of some sort. And then what you can do is, I voted in favor, you can see here, yeah. And what you can use, you can debate, you can have an argument, you can upvote and downvote other people's arguments, you can reply to someone else's argument, for example, you can add some extra information, and then you vote. So I'm going to show you one that I haven't voted yet. Okay. So for example, this one, I haven't voted. So this is another project that it's introduced in Congress. So you can vote affirmative, you can abstain. This is actually quite interesting because we found that the abstention numbers are really high, and they're higher in those bills where there's not enough information. And the abstention it's an interesting feature of the platform because I can't vote. You're taking an action to say that you cannot take an action, you cannot vote. And it normally happens when the bill it lacks information, and it's happening a lot.
And yeah. What's the average traffic, or can the platform support like more than, I don't know, 300 people?
Yes, absolutely. So we found that the projects that have the most traffic are those that relate to urban transportation, the use of public space, those things that affect your everyday life. Like those are the ones that harness sort of the most reactions. So let me just see. Once they're closed, for example, once they close, this is what you see. Mm-hmm. So it's, for us, it became very easy to simply compare how they were voting in this platform to how the Congress was voting.
But what about, for example, the space for citizens to input something new, not just say, I am in favor, I abstain, yeah. But no, actually, I think this could be better. Mm-hmm. There is space for innovation. Okay.
So in this one, in this demo, what a new feature that we haven't deployed on that instance yet, but that we will do soon, is side comments. So the idea is you can actually comment on a specific bit of the bill and say, I think this should be done in a different way. But also let me show you a very concrete example that it's called Demos. And it's, so what happened here is that Congress decided in the city of Buenos Aires, decided to start using DemocracyOS. So it was a huge success for us to be able to make this happen, because for the first time ever in history here in Argentina, Congress is opening up a space for a two-way conversation with the citizens of Buenos Aires. And it's very interesting because, for example, what we did was we had to build sort of a first instance of DemocracyOS where we asked citizens to choose which projects they wanted to discuss. And this is broken, so I'm just gonna, we finished that. So the 3 projects that were elected by the citizens were one project about working conditions for nurses, about investment in education, and about, this is a very Argentinian thing that is called trapitos, that there are these people on the streets that they tell you they're going to take care of your car when you park your car on the street, and if you don't pay them or give them money, then sometimes they, you know, they can get a bit violent, and sometimes they are the ones who actually steal your, you know, the things inside of your car if you don't. So it's a very, very complex problem in the city. So these are the 3 projects that got chosen by the citizens, and you can now get into the law itself, into the bill itself, and vote in general, so the whole bill, or you can also vote like article per article. But what's incredible about this is that the representatives, the members of parliament, they're having a conversation with the citizens in DemocracyOS, so they're actually replying, taking their comments and saying, yes, we think you're right about this, we're going to change, you know, that what you're suggesting. So let me just show you if I can find it very quickly. One example. Sorry, there are a lot of comments. Like this, the nurse project got a lot of traction and debate. We have over 1,000 people discussing and voting at the same time in DemocracyOS.
So you could say that at least the tool has shown that people want to participate.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's not sending a mission to Mars. It's just having a proper conversation with those who are making the decisions that impact your everyday life.
Yeah.
And we can do it, and we can do it at very little cost, and we can do it, you know, in a very open and transparent way. And so it's, yeah, we're extremely happy. Let me see if this one. Yeah. I'm just trying to find it. Yeah.
Sorry, we're starting to get questions from the Twitter and from the chat, and also I'm gonna open floor for everyone who joined us in this live conversation. If you wanna make a question directly, please do so. You just have to there's like a little hand you can raise for us to moderate. But in here, Arno is asking, is there a user profile for people participating? And I don't know, this like expert network component for the community to identify who are the experts in what topics. Maybe they want to follow them or ask them something. Or
yeah, that's a great question. With regards to the profile, I'm just going to go back to sharing your screen. Let me just see where I can find it. No, this is in Barcelona. Sorry. For some reason, this, oh, there you go. This is what I'm looking for. No, I have to log in. It doesn't matter. Yes, there is a profile page for users, and with regards to finding people who might be knowledgeable about a given topic, I think that's a very important question, and it's something that we need to tackle. We're going to be doing something that is called delegation, sort of voting by proxy. So what we want to do is to allow for sort of a distributed and emerging social leadership. And the way we are planning to do it is allowing for people to delegate their votes per topic. So it's going to be very important that we figure out how we can help finding those who are most savvy about certain topics.
Yeah, so it's for an example that is like, I don't have time to actually go through all the law, but I trust this writer, I trust this political philosopher that has done his job. So this is, I give my vote to him. Is that how? Okay.
Absolutely. And also, we cannot expect every citizen to know or be prepared to vote on everything. And so what these sort of systems and what technology allows us now is to have this sort of dynamic configuration and reconfiguration of preferences that allow for us to have a much better and horizontal representation. A representation that is based, not in once every couple of years, but you know more about health than I do, and I'm going to trust you on that one, and you're going to vote for me and for you on all topics related to health. Okay. So in that, what we're trying to do is, for example, in a health issue, if you are a big pharmaceutical company, you obviously have an ability to lobby Congress that a medical or doctor from a public hospital has. So, but maybe and probably that medical doctor from a public hospital has a lot of knowledge about public health, and we need to empower those that knowledge. We need to empower that.
So Milo raised his hand. Milo, are you here? I'm gonna unmute you for you to ask a question. Milo, can you hear us? Milo Baños, you raise your hand. Do you want to make a question? Well, so I have another question from the chat, and it's like, so are you making a taxonomy of questions that you can say, like, I want to delegate questions of type A, for example, health, public transportation, or how is the community also?
Well, we're not making a taxonomy of questions. At the moment, we're thinking of doing it by tags. Okay. So each build, project, conversation, thread, whatever you use, because DemocracyOS, you can use it to discuss bills, and you can use it to discuss whatever you want. For example, the political party in Spain, Podemos, is using it in a couple of their circles to discuss their virtual internal assemblies. And what they do is, instead of having bills, they have questions, and then everyone else discusses and votes on that question and things like that. So it's very versatile. So we are thinking at the moment of doing it by tag. So you're going to have economy, health, whatever, and it's probably going to be, you're going to be able to propose tags, etc. But if you if you want to, if you have any ideas or want to help with that, that's one of the things in our roadmap for the next couple of months.
And are there, Natalie asks, are there limits to participate, such as being from this or from
that? Yeah. At the moment, no, because the Net Party in Argentina doesn't have someone in Congress. So what we're doing now is we're trying to prioritize having more citizens engaging and participating than having strictly those who live within the boundaries of the city.
How many citizens have registered and participated?
I think it's about 5,000 at the moment, but I'm not sure. I need to ask if one of my team is there, and you can send me the answer via Twitter. Thank you.
Okay, and so let's go a little bit back so that we can then go further. So you could say, like, right now, what's the ecosystem? So there's DemocracyOS for voting, decision making, but there's also this place for more deep, like to deep the discussion on some specific laws. And then, so that will explain us where you are. But also, if you could say, if you had 3 wishes, and this is the favorite question of our Chief Technology Officer. So if this cup is like a genie lamp and you could ask anything, the 3 wishes for DemocracyOS, what would them be?
For DemocracyOS?
Yes.
That's a good one, God. So I guess firstly, my wish would be that DemocracyOS can be a plug and play application where anyone can very easily use it without the help of a developer. So I really want DemocracyOS just to be something that you can just imagine, going to a city or a university and just logging in and checking DemocracyOS and, having all the conversations that are happening in DemocracyOS and all the voting that are taking place in DemocracyOS for that city, that university, your building, your social club, whatever you want. That's what I want. I want DemocracyOS to be, what we use to have a conversation and to make decisions on every scale available. So that would be my first wish. And my second wish would be that DemocracyOS gets adopted by many political parties around the world. I would love to see political parties finally changing the way they make their decisions, of making those decisions together with those who in the end they're going to be affecting directly by those decisions, that are all of us. And finally, and this is, I wish to see DemocracyOS becoming a new operating system for a better democracy.
Okay. George Polisner says, I find this work very encouraging and appreciate the opportunity to participate. They are working on a major social media platform in America that at its core will include societal outcome-based group decision dynamics and legislative action. George, if you want to tell us more about it and how it can relate to DemocracyOS, that would be really appreciated. In the meantime, regarding your wishes, Pia, about these, making it for everyone, there's first one of the feature questions. How can you ensure that the people, for example, that are logging in are from Buenos Aires? Or do you care about?
Well, at the moment, we don't really care. As I said, we are trying to make this an experience for as many citizens as we can, and we're trying to prioritize having more citizens participating and engaging, so we can learn more about what we're doing and how to make it better. And so at the moment we don't really care, but we've developed a component called NetID, and it's a way of validating identity. So at the moment it's manual, because in Argentina, for example, there is no digital identity. So you just have to, if we would want to make sure that they're only citizens from Buenos Aires, then we need to check their IDs with the voting register, those who are registered to vote in the city. So there are ways of doing it. We are interested, very, very much interested, if there's someone out there who wants to join in this thinking and debate. We want to find out a way to validate identity in a distributed fashion, so without having one person or one central authority validating identity. We are looking at blockchain, and we're looking at other sort of technologies to do this. For us, that's very important.
Okay, but up to now, what have been what are the main obstacles for people participating? Like, what has stopped people to join the platform? Or
well, there are several obstacles. First of all, obviously, access to internet it's the big one. It's the one we are all very much concerned about, and it's the one that we need to tackle the soonest. So we don't want to make a tool that gives more access to those who have already access, but to really give access to those who don't. And so working towards that, we are working together with the X Lab in DC, trying to integrate DemocracyOS to mesh, sort of to having decentralized networks, in order to provide some sort of network access to in isolated communities. So for us, that's extremely important, and obviously that's the big one. Then I think there is a question of knowing that this exists. Obviously, we are doing our best to reach beyond the converted, because we very, very quickly reach those who are into the, technology and social media and these sort of tools. But how we break that wall and go massive, that's something that we are very much, trying to do and thinking best strategy to do it.
Okay. We have one question regarding the demo tool about what's the process to simplify the language of legislation? How are they doing it? I believe you explained by annotations, but if you want to go into that. And the other question is, what do I need to have my own DemocracyOS? Like, is there now a button that we can just hit and say install, or how can any one of us use that tool? And, yeah.
So at the moment, the process for translating the bills is very manual. We have an amazing, amazing team back home that they go through the whole reading of legislation and explaining it. We don't really trust, or at least, and I'm sorry here if I'm saying something that's wrong, but don't really trust, natural language processing sort of algorithms and things like that. I'm sure there's going to be an amazing technology coming up in the future, but at the moment it's very much a manual effort of reading and translating. And the other question, what do I need to have my own DemocracyOS? It's extremely simple. You just have to fork it from our GitHub. So it's github.com/DemocracyOS. Fork it. There is a great README installation guide. There's a wiki. And there's also, in the wiki, there's also a mailing list if you want to join and just ask some questions, but you should be able to do it.
And is that the same process to have the demo tool, also the one about?
No, the demo, that's a great question. Thank you. No, the demo, it's something that we actually did specially for Congress in Argentina, but it's obviously, it's open source, it's there, but it's, it was a custom-made development. So if there's a need for it, and if more people want it, then we can certainly try and develop it in a way that it's more easily forked.
Oh, Arno also asked, what does adoption by a political party mean? Having party members to interact on the platform, or having party members to take into account the opinion from the users, or?
Having party members taking into account opinions from the users, obviously. I mean, interaction, it's clearly the step before, but what I envision is political parties sort of making their decisions together with citizens on an online platform like this one.
And until now, where has DemocracyOS been downloaded? Who is using it besides?
So I'm just gonna very, very quickly go back to sharing the screen.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, show screen only. And okay, so so this, for example, it's an example of the Mexican federal government. Mm-hmm. So the national digital strategy for Mexico, mm-hmm. They use DemocracyOS to open up a discussion about their open data policy. Mm-hmm. So basically what they did is they explained how their open data policy was built, and they took comments and suggestions from the citizens. And those comments that they're here, then they were taken into account when they wrote the final decree of their open data policy. And then this example here is in Barcelona. This is Guanyan. It's an extremely interesting political group in Barcelona. And what they did is they used DemocracyOS to build their ethics code. They are trying to form a political group that are going to run for elections for Barcelona. And what they wanted to do was have a conversation and reach agreements on their ethics code. So that's what they were doing. We also have, and it's unfortunately, I can't show it to you at the moment because it's down, but in Tunisia, they used DemocracyOS to open up a space to have a conversation about the new constitution. This was in January last year. It was actually really interesting, and for me it was really one of the highlights of this year, was when one of the developers, Christian, he sent a link saying, have you guys seen this? And when we clicked, we saw DemocracyOS in French and Arabic. being used across the world to discuss the constitution of that country in Tunisia. And we had no idea who these guys were, how did they find DemocracyOS, but for us it was just this validation that what we were doing is something that it's needed not only in Argentina, but everywhere in the world. And if we can share that, that's why of course we do it open source because of that, because if we can share that in places like Tunisia, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Mexico, Spain, Finland, then that means that we're actually tapping on a very, very concrete need to upgrade the political system.
And if you could share success stories beyond the use, but if you had to make the case for a government, not for us, in the sense like, yes, we want the space and we want to for governments, why should they use DemocracyOS? Besides legitimacy, can you share like, before DemocracyOS, government wouldn't get these kind of insights that actually reflect directly on better results?
Because that's exactly the answer. Like it's absolutely impossible to pretend that a government agent or an MP can understand all the implications of a public policy. And so there's a lot of distributed knowledge in society that until now we couldn't really have access to, because we didn't have the tools and the means to do it, and now we do. So governments have the responsibility of taking all of this into consideration, because they're not making decisions for themselves, they're making decisions for those who they claim to be representing. And to represent means to listen to what they're saying. So yes, definitely. I think that's the answer there, yeah.
Okay, and right now there are similar projects that I was sharing with you before we started the demo, the one on Brazil, that's called Vote. Yeah, so how are you different, or how is one of all these platforms developing at the same time, inspiring one another? Or
I think that specifically with Votina Web, they're not open source.
Okay.
So I think that's sort of one of the big differences. We build absolutely everything 100% open source. We're even doing our political party open source. We have a manual that we are starting to circulate now on how to do your own net party in your own city, in your own context. So for us, open source it's like not open source is simply not an option. So I guess that would be one of our main differences. And with regards to other platforms, I think that we are definitely collaborating and inspiring one another. And what we want to do with our development is build it and develop it in sort of components specifically. So if someone needs NetID, or if someone needs the notifier engine, the notifications engine, or if someone needs the build tracker or whatever, they can just grab those bits and pieces and use it themselves. Like, we want to stop reinventing the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
So we are happy to. I mean, for us, it's collaborating. It's the way we do things. Yeah.
Great. Well, Pia, thank you so much for your time. We've been already discussing for even 10 more minutes than what we agreed. But before we leave, is there any other question? If you have time, is there any other question? George Polisner mentioned something about service-oriented architecture. I don't know, George, if you want to clarify that, or
if you want, my Twitter account is @PiaMancini. So just simply tweet whatever you want. Any other questions there, and I'm happy to reply.
Yeah, and we are also adding this video to our civic-discourse.org. That's a space for us to continue on the conversation of these new tools that are helping to open governance and trying to solve public problems with technology. But yeah, before we stop, can you share us what's your definition of success for DemocracyOS, and what is the thing that when you wake up gets you more excited about what you're working on? And I don't know, what's your dream?
Well, I think that those sort of three wishes are sort of sum it up in a way. I would love to see DemocracyOS being the operating system of a democracy in the 21st century, a democracy that we are all discussing together and building together and having a conversation about what do we want? What do we want as a system of government? Like, DemocracyOS is simply our 2 cents to this conversation. It's this, this is what we have to offer. Maybe it's certainly not the only one. It might not be the best one, but it's what we want to bring to the table. So we have this need to decide what is democracy for us, what is democracy for this century, because we can't, we simply cannot be governed by a system that was designed 200 years ago. It's not fair for us. So I think that, I would love DemocracyOS to be that operating system.
And is it available in many languages, or?
Yes, it's available in a lot of languages. So it's in Portuguese, it's in Finnish, it's in Catalan, it's in German, in Italian, in English, obviously. Someone help me. There, I don't know, about 15 languages, I think. So just go to github.com/democracyos and very importantly, if you like DemocracyOS, please, there are some help wanted tags in certain issues in GitHub. Just grab them and give us a hand.
Yes, many people have been asking, like, can they help them? So
yes.
This
is the way, yes. So
if people in your team.
If you are a developer and you want to help, the way is to go to GitHub and just grab a help wanted issue. And there's a mailing list that you can join. And if you're not a developer, send us an email to speak@democracyos.org. Tell us what you do, and we'll, I'm sure you can help us some way or another.
Okay. Well, thank you, Pia, and thank you, everyone, for listening to this session of for Democracy. The next one is going to happen on the Friday, and it's about the Open Science Framework. Is this tool that's trying to strengthen and to make scientific communications more effective. But then again, we'll keep going on, and let's keep this conversation going through the civic-discourse.org. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pia.
Thank you, guys. Bye.